Welcome back to the second half of the pod. We have some great topics lined up for you today. We'll be starting off with the US economy and the impact on crypto. Then we talk about OpenAI, specifically about the CEO, Sam Altman, and his visit to Congress. Then we want to finish off strong with some AI trends and a specific question: what are the benefits and downsides of generic versus hyper-focused models? And we're going to talk about the backbone of the AI revolution, the silent winner, Team Green, aka Nvidia. All right, so hang tight and let's go. All right, boys, talking about them dineros, talking about money. What about the US? I have some interesting things I see in your notes there, Dan. You're talking about the US printing money, debt ceiling. What do you got for us?
Well, this is just some interesting things to kind of look at, because at the end of the day, the macro environment dictates a lot of what's going on in some of these smaller markets, and not crypto is a small market, but I mean, U.S. economy, it all ties in. So it's also kind of important to know what's going on in the real world, and how that can, affect, potentially the rest of these some of these micro, shit coins and crypto. And just in general, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have less money to spend, you need to pay your bills, and you have something in crypto, so you have to liquidate it, right? So if you don't have a job, or for example, you lost your job, something like this, you need to pay for the bills. Of course, you will liquidate your crypto, so you don't have that much play money anymore, and that's why it has a big impact on it.
So what's interesting in the U.S., it's like this. I mean, we kind of had it coming, because the U.S. is a master at just spending. It's like having a credit card and just be like, we'll pay it next year. Okay. Oh, it's time to pay. Okay, like, how are we gonna come up with this money? Let me just go to my printer real quick and just okay, here you go. Well, it doesn't really work that way, because eventually, there's gonna be some consequences to doing all that stuff. So, we had inflation. We're still spending money. I mean, we are sending, hundreds of billions. I think I watched the town hall with Trump the other day, and he did actually say some things that were kind of true, right?
Like what?
Yeah.
So he talked about, we are sending, I think we sent like $180 billion over to Ukraine. It does make sense to, help these people that are just being attacked. But then again, it's like, why is the US sending, I think Europe sent like 20 or 30 billion. We're sending 880 billion. And it's like, what are some of these, who are the people that are actually making money here? It's, again, you're probably going to see some Netflix show in a few years where it's like private contractors and military contractors.
US, right?
Shady deals. It's like, I feel like 40, 50, 60% of this money is actually just going into sort of the wrong hands.
I just have the stats open, by the way. It's 76.8 billion. 61% is military, 34 is financial, and 3.9 billion, so that's 5% is humanitarian. So 61% is military, which is security assistance, which is training, equipment, weapons, logistics support, and other assistance of the Ukraine's security, whatever. Then weapons and equipment is 23 billion, and then grants and loans for weapons. So they're just giving them grants, basically.
Just a quick insights on the credit cards. When Dan was referring to that, basically US is spending so much so much money, they have a credit card. The average American has 3.84 credit cards. The average German has less than half a credit card, or not even one credit card. So that spending.
Germans are good about being frugal, that's for sure. Well,
so then you were saying about the debt ceiling. Yeah, talk about the debt ceiling. What does
the
it
main
mean?
point is that we had this, I forget how many years ago again, where they where we're starting to hit the debt ceiling again. They keep pushing it out. At this point we have to make some adjustments, basically procrastinating. And So there's going to be some negotiations again on June 1st is sort of the soft deadline. And that's basically the last time this happened, the government kind of like crumbles for a bit if they can't reach an agreement. So some government employees don't get paid. And I think the S&P dropped like 15% or something the last time there was like big issues with like this debt ceiling. And sort of on top of that, you have continued inflation concerns. We're trying to, the Fed is kind of reactive versus proactive in most cases. And they try to have low inflation, like around the 2% mark, and low unemployment, not high unemployment. High employment, low unemployment. So then you have all these regional banks on top of that. They're getting absolutely hammered at the moment because you have...
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting to kind of think about because it's sort of these regional banks, how do they make their money? So they get money typically from people that are depositing money.
Yes.
They pay the depositors a small fee, and then they are lending it out at a higher, or trying to make a return on that money at a higher rate. Yeah. So a lot of these guys are doing, a lot of these regional banks, they might do some commercial real estate. They're lending to commercial real estate developers, charging them a higher, some higher fees. Then they're putting money into long-term like treasury bills. This is where some of the issues happen. So they plow money into these long-term treasury bills, making the spread of where they're paying for the money that they receive, and then making the spread on where they are, buying these treasuries at, collecting the coupon. The issue is with how easy it is to withdraw some of this money. They're not thinking, okay, maybe we have an outflow of 5 to 10%. No, some of these places that are very highly concentrated with their depositors, all of a sudden they start to take out their money, and they don't actually have the money to pay these people back because the treasuries that they bought,
8 years or something,
because of the interest rates going up, now the mark-to-market value of those treasuries is way below. They can't hold that until maturity, so if they have to flash sell it, there's a difference in
cents on the dollar. They have to sell it.
I heard that the U.S. changed that some law though for this specifically.
Like, didn't that happen after the Silicon Valley Bank literally collapsed like a few months ago? Because basically that was a liquidity crisis. People were trying to get the money out, couldn't. Then in less than a week, basically, like billions of dollars were trying to like get out of the bank and to other local banks, which were like exactly what you said. Like a lot of the banks, I mean, they did nothing wrong. Like Silicon Valley Bank, they put a lot of their money in those treasury bills, but the treasury bills had like a very low percentage. And of course they bought it like for 8 or 10 years, which then when people trying to take so much money out actually cost like, they had to sell it for like 80, 70, 60 cents on the dollar, which then of course made these assets like not worthless, but lose a lot of money there.
Well, it's sort of, it's a massive topic that they have to discuss because you do need lending, how our businesses start. So people are thinking, okay, there's going to be a higher concentration in like the bigger banks from these regional banks. But at the same time, we're almost thinking of some of these solutions on the fly at the moment because of all these things that just happened. And with the internet, people are realizing, these things can happen so quickly with the spread. As soon as there's a bit of fear, boom, you can just press, withdraw my money, and you have it. So it's something that I forget who. There was somebody that had a nice way to kind of like talk about it. But there's still a lot to be talked about in terms of how they're going to set up some of these deposits, or
Yeah.
there's going to be tighter lending regulations probably.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I
Yeah.
mean, also one of the answers was that basically the U.S. government is backing now, like every local bank, right? So basically, there's no liquidity. For example, if they bought a treasury which has a 8 or 10 year maturity, they can just sell it directly for 1-to-1 directly to the to the U.S. government, so that they don't have any liquidity issues. So yeah.
Yeah, they're just making things up sort of on the fly. Like
Yeah.
Credit Suisse, for instance, when they had their huge issue,
Oh, yeah.
more I think it was preferred like bondholders. In the rule book, the bondholders have higher priority than the equity holders.
Yeah.
And when this was all happening, just overnight, some certain rules, I mean, there's going to be lawsuits and everything, but sort of overnight,
Really?
some of these rules are being changed. And now all of a sudden, like equity holders are being preferred over bondholders. Like it's complete,
Complete shit show.
chaos. So when
I have to look
shit
into
hits
this.
shit hits the fan, don't always, you can't always trust exactly what you're signing, because sometimes you even when you have some contracts and agreements, sometimes you can still get screwed. I know that happened with Credit Suisse. There's still ongoing talks about that.
Damn.
I didn't know this.
I mean,
It'll be interesting come June 1st. I think there's definitely going to be, I mean, the US is super like divided.
yeah.
Yeah. Is
Maybe-
it along the
maybe on
party line,
purpose.
or
What's that?
is it divided along the party line, Republicans and Democrats, or is it?
Yeah,
or is it-
they never actually look out for there's not a lot of common sense. It's really sort of biased and groupthink. Not a lot of in between what is best for the American people. It's very selfish from both sides, for the most part. Politically.
So they will decide that in June, right? You said 1st June. It's when they have a hearing. Or...
June 1st is sort of the soft deadline for when they talk about the increasing the debt ceiling.
Awesome.
So the last time was, I'm not sure exactly, but S&P I think got smoked like 15% when they couldn't come
Wow.
to like some sort of
That's
agreement.
Well,
crazy.
short then.
Yeah.
You know what? You know the date shorted before.
Yeah.
So yeah, is it priced in yet? Probably not. I think you're gonna see there's
We'll see.
definitely still some like big black swan events that people aren't even thinking about. And
Sure.
going
We
forward.
might have a follow-up
You know.
podcast on that one. But actually talking about the hearing, I would like now also to switch the topic a little bit. I want to talk about the AI, like for example, the regulation in like the Senate hearing of Sam Altman. So Sam Altman, for those guys who don't know him, he is the CEO of OpenAI, who created ChatGPT. ChatGPT, as we mentioned in our previous podcast, hit more than 100 million users in less than 10 days. And in that hearing, there were some interesting finds. So one of them is that actually he mentioned he's not taking any salary. So he's only having his health insurance covered. And he actually has 0% equity in OpenAI, which I thought was super interesting. And he is like asking for better regulations, because right now, like as you can see in the podcast, in every podcast we're mentioning news about AI. And there are like so many more developments. It's just going faster and faster. And of course, the government needs to start like regulating all of these things, because otherwise we'll go top and bottom. But now, I would of course hear the opinion of Mark and of course Dan as well. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think I would play it like this. Let's talk hot takes. What do we think are specifically the niches or the applications that should be regulated? For me personally, I think deepfakes. That means audio and visual deepfakes will be a big one, because I think this technology basically enables you to either scam or do some kind of nasty business
yeah,
very, very easily. So I think this one is one of the main focuses. This is one for me. What do you guys got?
I agree. So for me, it's interesting that you mentioned that. Oh, sorry, Dan. That you added, especially with like deepfakes as well, like audio. Like for example, we mentioned earlier that Apple. So Apple will be able to, like, you can create your own voice in 15 minutes. Like in the next iOS update. So this is actually for people who might lose their voice, etc. But I think this in general, it leaves it open for like deepfakes, etc. And so verification will become more and more important. Question is, will the government regulate it, or does each company like needs to solve it on a different level, right? Maybe Twitter, YouTube, wherever you can upload content and distribute it to people, that they need to be able to verify whether like the origin, whether it's correct, etc. And just my opinion, my 2 cents.
Man.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is pretty insane. For instance, one thing this is where it already proved to be dangerous. Like especially the videos, the images, the voice. An example of where voice was used that was super dangerous was a scammer, got recording of a girl's voice, and that voice. I mean, you can replicate a person's voice like off of, I don't know what the specific parameter amount is, how many sentences or words you have to use, but it's pretty fast, like how you can replicate somebody's voice and make it sound really believable. So the scammer recorded this girl's voice. He then so messed up. Like I already warned my parents, because you have to watch out for your parents, right? You have to tell them these things, like not, to be weary of this is what's happening. So they called the parents and they said, we've kidnapped your daughter.
Marc Lucas said that as well.
We want $100,000. You can't go to the cops. You send that money, or we're gonna kill your daughter. And then in the background, they made it sound like her saying like, "Mom, Dad, like please help. Like I need you."
Yeah.
Now imagine you're
It's fucked up.
55-year-old dad and mom, and you're getting this call, and you're not like very in tune with like what's happening in this AI world.
Yeah.
You're gonna think this thing is real, and most likely, if you don't have the money, I mean, in this case, it might save you that you don't have the money. But if you do have the money, I mean, they're probably going to be targeting some richer individuals.
Yeah,
And,
of course.
They'll say, do X, Y, and Z. We have your daughter. They don't know about this. Boom. So that's one issue. Then second thing is obviously like politically, you can create all these videos and they look so real and they sound so real. You can, even if you convince 10% of people that are like looking at these videos,
the rest.
I mean,
it snowballs.
Like there was an interview, for example, about AI, where basically there was an interview created or deepfaked between Steve Jobs and Joe Rogan. So for all the listeners out there, go on YouTube, find Joe Rogan interviewing Steve Jobs, and both of them are AIs, right? I mean, it's crazy. They can hold a conversation, and that's also like coming in there, like how dangerous it actually is, because they sound super real. Sorry, Dan, for the interruption. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. So yeah, there has to be some sort of regulation, because I mean at the moment it's sort of a weird space, because I believe you can, a lot of the work that's being done, it can kind of also be replicated or back engineered. Some of the stuff that's being done, and the pace of this stuff is just so fast. So like, what is the correct regulation? Same time, AI can do so many amazing things. I think the biggest pipe dream for a lot of people is like understanding the world better, creating a better world, evolving science, making science better. You know, what is our purpose on this earth, in this world? What goes beyond the stars? Are there aliens out there? Can this thing help us make these crazy advancements? At the same time, like on the dangerous side, bad actors can use this stuff to potentially, you know, this is what everybody is scared of. You know, these deep fakes, starting revolutions. Creating scams.
Well, impacting
political. Just think about the next election, right? When is it coming up? 2024?
Like, that's gonna be a shit show.
Yeah.
Just a different insights though on AI. Hasn't been there like an OnlyFans model that is actually just created used with AI?
Is there, or is that a question?
No. I think there is. Wait, let me check.
Really?
I think yeah. It's crazy. OnlyFans AI model. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was just a AI model spark controversy. That's crazy, and people actually paid for it. So, in April there was AI just killed OnlyFans, wanting to own models in February already.
Yeah, they're using AI to create those images, and they're really realistic. And then on top of that, a lot of them have like ways to chat with them. So people will sign up, spend like $1 per minute chatting with this
more
this model.
actually.
Yeah.
So
whatever.
let me just.
And they're just speaking with an
So
AI
look,
thing.
That is a genius business model. Whoever did this, you're fucking genius. Honestly, no harm, no foul. Because I think it's an industry in general that, I mean, there's a lot of
here. Even the article says,
fucked up things.
"Do you know these 3 models are not real? We're generated by artificial intelligence." Isn't that crazy?
Wait. All 4 of them, or what? Is there one real?
No, that these models are all 4. Sorry, yeah. All of them are just AI generated. It's crazy.
I mean,
To the listeners, please don't watch this with your children.
Not safe for work. There's certain with these ones, I think you can, if you look really closely, like there are certain things where you can tell.
Oh, really?
Maybe where like the kind of the certain body parts where it's like the fat is kind of like laying a different way. But
or like the different amount of fingers and stuff like this. Yeah, I mean, we've seen it also with the tiger animation, right, with Midjourney. But I mean, for most people, I don't think they will, like, you really have to look for it. I wouldn't even, like, seeing the image and just, like, I was like, wait, there's a normal picture, right? Because, like, you wouldn't think it's a fake. That's just crazy. Yeah.
And the people that are, I mean, in German you say, my grandpa would always say, 80% der Welt ist verblödet.
80% of the population is...
It's like 95 or 99%. And it basically means 80% of the world is, you know, dumb. Or, you know, lack critical thought.
Retarded, maybe?
Yeah. We might get canceled, but retarded. So... The government is for the people.
We can still bleep it.
But the people, they are retarded.
That's it. I mean,
so
can't even blame him. I mean,
that lack the critical thought to kind of analyze something and take a step back. Like, is this real? Is this, you know? That's kind of what's coming into play here. And
I mean, but it will be harder and harder to see the difference between AI and not. But yeah. What are your thoughts on the future? Positive or negative on AI? And of course, what else do we have to talk about?
My view at the moment is a bit negative. Primarily because I've just seen with how the government... so usually there's this innovation, then the regulation is always lagging behind, then the regulation tries to overshoot it, like stunts the thing, and then it's kind of this medium ground. But like the way the government is at the moment, it's just so it's like if you've ever gone to get your driver's license in the US, or you've done anything related to like with the government,
Horrible. DMV.
it's like you just want to blow your brains out because it's just so inefficient and so
Yeah.
crap.
Oh yeah.
Even the Senate hearing, I saw some joke. It was like, oh, you know what? They should replace the senators with AI because they always ask just the most ridiculous questions. They're so out of touch with like what they're doing.
I mean,
I
the age
saw
of like
also a
60s,
meme about
70s
that.
or something. Like, yeah.
No, the best meme was like senators are talking about minimum wage, yet we're paying them, I don't know what it was, $85 an hour for sleeping. Literally, there was like pictures of the senators sleeping there.
Yeah.
In the, it's just like,
And my thoughts are, I think the U.S. It's going to come down to really sort of like the individuals who are like leading this space to come up with some sensible things to almost self-regulate in a way. But then on the other hand, you have countries that just want to win, like maybe China, Russia, that can misuse a lot of this stuff. So my outlook is sort of more on the negative side.
Yeah.
I hope that people can kind of have this rallying cry around, just being a lot more careful on the internet, not believing things just as they come. Hopefully there's some more authentic, like AI that combats some of this fake stuff.
Deep fake.
Deep fakes, that stuff. And then I do hope it has like the positive side. I hope that, especially like in the science world, that it can have some real breakthroughs for people.
oh, that'd be so sick.
Maybe cancer or people that are paralyzed, that they can, have these breakthroughs where you can,
with the
Neuralink is kind of scary, but just imagine if there's a way.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that people that are like paralyzed, that now you can create something to let people not be in pain, for instance, not being doped up on like opium.
Oh yeah, it's horrible. I get your point. I also agree that, for example, that's why I like that Sam Altman like went to the senator hearing, right? Because he wants to push the regulations. Because yes, I mean the senators, I mean most of them like, what is a smartphone basically, more or less. But I mean they're very out of touch. So yeah, of course that he is then like trying to push it because like yes, without regulations, it's gonna be interesting development. But yeah, in general, I'm more positive, to be honest. I really think that it will like 10x our output. I see that ourselves, right? Using ChatGPT for maybe for SEO, for our blog posts, or just in general, like the Google announcement that was just last week or this week, where they enable people just to like respond faster to emails. I think that's like for this kind of stuff, it's super amazing. And of course, in the wrong hands, it can like of course lead to downsides. But yeah,
I see something in the notes. I think that's super interesting. You have something written down there, Dan, about the Google researcher leak as well as the hyper focused trained models. And do you want to comment on that? It would be super interesting to see also, because I think it's the same. I think in general I would focus on the hyper-focused, hyper-specific trained models. I think this is an interesting way because we are seeing now large trends of generic models versus then hyper-trained ones, right?
Yeah,
so generic is ChatGPT, etc.
There was some Google researcher leak that happened. This isn't like Google's stance. What they said, what this guy said, but the uncomfortable truth is we aren't positioned to win this arms race, and neither is OpenAI. While we've been squabbling, a third faction has been quietly eating our lunch. And I guess the TLDR, or the summary, and this is actually, this was a take from a friend of mine in one of these chats. He said, the genie was out of the bottle day one. The decentralized open source learning language models running on phones and laptops is a massive threat to Google, Facebook, OpenAI learning language models, their dominance, because they have no moat against small, hyper-specific trained models, 20 billion parameters or less, and think that large models are slowing their own development down. So I believe what my friend was trying to get at is that these language models are basically just large sets of data and statistics, and they're massive. But some of the really, really crazy ones, and like, for instance, a lot of the tools that you're seeing, they don't really have any sort of moat, anything that can stop new entrants from like copying or doing this.
No.
Like the one where you wanted to create a professional headshot, right? So you take a picture. This company makes $200,000-$300,000 selling this thing, which is just like a plugin. Put in a couple parameters. The next person does this. Some of the more niche ones, and I think the value is like in the data, obviously.
Yeah.
So some of these really, really like niche, this niche data and training that data, and people that have like the plugins and stuff like that. And if you're able to somehow collect that data, you can do some pretty crazy stuff and maybe have a bigger moat against other people.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's what they always said is data is the new gold. And I think that data is king end of the day, right? If you have a specific niche market. I mean, I disagree a little bit because some of the tools, the modes might not be technical, but there could be other ones, right? Network effects. So thereby, the technical side, you might not have a mode, but you can get a mode through network effects, etc. So you can lock them in differently. They might be not as strong, obviously, as a technical one, but end of the day, these can be still great. So I think the super interesting one is though that you have the difference then between the OpenAIs, the ChatGPT, the platforms, and then the hyper specific ones that are on the platform, right? Which will be amazing. But I didn't understand what he meant by the ones that are running on phones and laptops. What is that? Like, are there apps that are using this, or
so essentially,
how are these learning?
Once you're able to, harness what it is that OpenAI is doing, almost like your own open source decentralized version. So you can just download your own version of it on your phone. I think I'm not a full expert on this, but basically, kind of sort of back to the same topic where you can re-engineer some of that data, and train your own models, having your own decentralized version is pretty crazy where you can have less restrictions.
I mean, you will see that also in Apple, for example, you mentioned that, for example, with the own version running on the computer, on the mobile. I mean, when, for example, Apple is enabling people with a new update to have create your own voice, it's basically you have your own AI running in a closed loop or closed private circuit on your phone, so that it can generate your voice, right? So the data is not being leaked outside, similar where it saves, I'm assuming it will be similar where it saves your fingerprint or face, well, not face, so all your private data on that extra chip. That will happen the same with the AI, and then we have very unique or focused AIs that of course they will outperform OpenAI, etc. on certain tasks.
All right, Lucas, let's jump then to your last topic that we have still, Nvidia Perfusion. I want to hear about this.
Okay,
what's that?
Of course, so in the last episodes we were talking about Firefly as well as Midjourney, and now Nvidia. So Nvidia, for those who don't know, Nvidia is the biggest or one of the biggest producers for graphics cards, for gaming, but actually also what runs really good on gaming graphics cards is actually all the API, all the AI calculations that needs to be done tend to run actually on GeForce graphics cards. So OpenAI are using their own GeForce graphics cards. Their servers are running on GeForce. Or for example, you change the chip and then it's a self-driving car. So GeForce is basically has been the head of the market or spearheading the market for AI for for years now, and now they are releasing, for example, Perfusion, which is basically similar to Midjourney, where you can just text to image. But the problem with Midjourney, etc., is that it's very bad if you give it an image already before, and it should create an image that is similar to it, right? So
so it's random. It doesn't
yeah, more like it tries, but it's not really good at it. Whereas Nvidia Perfusion is able to do that much better. Also, what I can imagine in the future happening is because it's really more focused for creators, and I can also for game developers. That's what I'm assuming that would be very, very useful for later to also generate 3D images or characters, etc. So I think that might be a really, really cool development in that direction. But of course, they didn't say anything about it. But I just can imagine that would be super, super nice.
I mean, what is the AMD stance on that? Do you know that? How is AMD performing?
Actually, I'm not sure on AMD. Let me check.
Because AMD and Nvidia, they're the two largest ones in graphics card in general. So I'm curious to see what AMD is looking at.
Microsoft teamed up with AMD to help bolster the chip makers' expansion into artificial intelligence. So I'm assuming GeForce is definitely dominating the market there.
Oh, yeah. Nice, lads. I like.
Yeah,
Do we have anything else, boys?
I would say that's the pod, guys. Great pod, Dan.